Hey kid, wanna know about some pre-release Pokemon stuff? Yeah, I've been reading a lot about these pre-release Pokemon articles on the cutting room floor, and I think this stuff is incredibly interesting. While I'm not gonna go over every aspect, you should expect some pretty interesting things from this video. If you wanna know more, just go to the cutting room floor website and look it up yourself. That's what the internet is for. Alright, I have no more to say, so let's just get started. You may already know, but Pokemon Red and Green was made by this little unknown indie game company called Game Freak. But before they were even a game company, they were making a fan magazine for the arcades and home consoles at the time. But that started to change whenever Satoshi Tajiri was thinking about bugs or something, and came up with the idea of a brand new video game he wanted to make. The gang at Game Freak only comprised of a couple people, Satoshi Tajiri being the main director and producer for the project. The main idea was that Tajiri wanted to create a world where people can train and battle monsters against each other. The Game Boy link cable was the key to all of these possibilities. The pitch for Pokemon was called Capsule Monsters initially. You can see some capsules being thrown out on this cover art here. The way trainers became partners with their Pokemon was not how you would expect. The main character actually had its own dedicated charisma stat to convince monsters to join your team. The mechanic was being iterated from the Wizardry RPGs. While this sounds kind of cool on its own, it didn't end up working out anyway. The world of Capsule Monsters was a lot more different than the Kanto region we know of now, supposedly dotted with dungeons that continuously go deeper and deeper, all while still being based on the real location if you just kind of look at it differently. However, the most interesting part about this initial pitch to me was of course the trading economy. While today we just trade one Pokemon at a time, the initial concepts allowed trading multiple Pokemon at a time during a trade. Could you imagine sending your friend 30 Rattata in a single trade? Pokemon also used to have a price attached to them, meaning you can go out, catch a Pokemon, and bring him back to someone who might want to buy him in-game. This idea never went anywhere, sadly. There are also these lists containing Pokemon designs before their final iterations, some of which didn't even make it to the final game. Now, featuring Omega, which looks like it could have fit right into Generation 2 with the steel typing, seeing that it was based on Mechagodzilla. Also kinda looks like Aggron. And then there's Gyarth, which kinda already looks like Rhydon even though it was already planned for the game. Besides that, it was in the game for about half the development time, as it could be seen in a later sprite sheet. Also, I have to say, I'm pretty fond of this old Scyther sprite. It looked a lot more like a dragon before they decided against the kaiju monster design philosophy. One of the most interesting things about the middle development for Red and Green was these New Year postcards showing Executor and Kangaskhan. These were black and white photos for the longest time until colored photos of the postcards showed up on Twitter of April this year. We can actually see the details of both Pokemon here with a surprisingly bright blue Kangaskhan. I love its little kid in its pouch with the big bulbous eyes compared to the final design. The Executor has a lot of cool little design details that were eventually reworked for simplicity in its final design. But these were likely just little doodles the lead artist Ken Sugimori did for the new year. Speaking of those Pokemon designs, we could see a bunch of Pokemon that didn't even make it to the final game. Look, it's our buddy Gyarth! You can kinda see him screaming like his older design, but I'm kinda hurt to see him cut from the game as he might have looked a little bit generic. And look, it's our other buddy Omega! Oh, shoot. Yeah, looks like Omega was completely scrapped at this point. Alas, they couldn't find a good moveset for this guy without making up an entirely new type or something. Oh, look at this guy. It's Deer! Sorry, but Stantler stole the spotlight for this guy. Seal used to look really fucking creepy. I'm glad they changed that one. This unknown elephant dude kind of looked pretty generic, so I see why they scrapped it. Donphan is better anyway. A cactus Pokemon would have been pretty cool, but I have no idea where it could have been, seeing Kanto has no deserts. It wouldn't be until Generation 3 when the Cacnea line decided to show up. Last one is Jag, which I like the design of, but again, Sharpedo easily clears this guy. Hell, even Generation 2 tried to put another shark Pokemon in. And that's kind of the only interesting stuff that happened in the middle of development, so at least it's something that I didn't know of. I guess some people didn't realize the development of Pokemon was actually pretty grueling, taking about 6 years to actually develop for. Whew, anyway, on that note, thankfully there's nothing much to cover late in development, as Game Freak was very much getting close to the end and showing pre-release footage, and it basically looks like the same as the final, quite literally. Okay, one more thing here. Did you know Pokemon Red and Green was going to have 2 rivals, not 1? The second rival was going to be called Junior, a character that is basically barely present throughout the game and is seen to have a really weak team. But it's revealed at the end of the game that he challenged the Elite Four and became the champion, and now you have to beat him. This was eventually switched out for Blue, who could also be seen in some official artwork. She was also scrapped and replaced by Professor Oak, who had a fight plan on the Nugget Bridge, and you could actually fight him in the final game using some specific glitches. Although it was Green who ended up being your only rival in the game, the Pokemon Adventures manga prominently featured Blue as a main character who had interactions with Red. She's kind of a weird grifter trying to scam people and later tries to intercept Team Rocket's plan to retrieve Mew. She's a cool character. Anyways, that was kind of a long rant. I hope y'all learned something today. It's hard to find something that was as big as Pokemon with how ambitious the game was. Pokemon steadily improved from Red and Green and generally peaked at Generation 5. With so many features, it's hard to list them all. Many great ideas stemming from the very first game. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. You should have a wonderful day. And see you later.